Hey everyone, welcome back to K-Korner, the place where extraordinary stories from everyday life take the spotlight. I'm your host, Crown, ready to dive into some truly unbelievable tales. Whether it's quirky encounters or just plain bizarre happenings, we've got it all. So sit back, relax, and let's get ready to be amazed. Remember, if you enjoy these stories, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss out on our daily adventures. Alright, let's jump right into our first story. So let me tell you about this absolutely wild day I had at work. I'm a manager at a popular bakery in town known for our custom cakes. It was a typical busy Saturday, buzzing with the smell of fresh pastries and sound of customers. And that's when she walked in. The entitled mom was her entitled kid in tow. The kid was adorable, looking excited probably because it was his birthday, and the entitled mother on the other hand had this air of impatience around her. She came straight to the counter where I was and without a greeting blurted out, "I need a birthday cake for my son, and it needs to be free. It's his special day." I was taken aback but maintained my professionalism. "Happy birthday to your son. However, I'm sorry, we don't give out free cakes. I can show you some affordable options though." This didn't sit well with Karen. Her voice rose a notch. "You don't understand. My son deserves the best cake for his birthday, and I demand it for free. You are ruining his birthday." I tried to reason with her. "I really am sorry, but it's not our policy to give out free cakes. I can offer a small discount, but that's the best I can do." The situation escalated quickly. She started ranting about how terrible our customer service was and how we were discriminating against her and her son. People in the shop started to stare and her kid looked mortified. And that's when my colleague Jake stepped in. "Man, please calm down. Let's not cause a scene. We're happy to help you find something within your budget." But the entitled mother was not having any of it. "I don't want your cheap cakes. I want the best one. And I want it now." In the midst of her yelling, she reached over the counter and grabbed Jake by his shirt. And that's when I knew this was going out of hand. I immediately called security. As security tried to escort her out, she became more aggressive. She started throwing things around and in the chaos, she knocked over a display of cupcakes. Her son was crying by this point and everyone in the shop was in shock. The security managed to restrain her and call the police. When they arrived, she was still screaming about how she was being treated unfairly. They tried to calm her down, but she resisted and even tried to hit one of the officers. Eventually, they had to handcuff her and take her away. Her son was taken aside by one of the kinder officers who tried to comfort him. After they left, the shop was a mess and the atmosphere was tense. We had to close early to clean up. Jake was a bit shaken, but okay. The rest of the staff were just shocked at what had happened. The next day, we found out that the entitled mother was charged with assault and disturbing the peace. I felt bad for the kid though. It was supposed to be a happy day for him, and it turned into a nightmare. Since then, we've implemented a new policy. Any aggressive behavior, we immediately call the authorities. We also started a small program where we donate birthday cakes to a local children's home every month. At least something good came out of that crazy experience. I'm the maintenance director at an independent senior living center. It's pretty much an apartment complex in which you have to be a senior citizen to reside. We provide 3 meals a day, housekeeping, activities, a bus for transportation, and several other amenities to increase the quality of life because more times than not, they will spend the final years of their life here. Our facility is family-owned and oriented. Family members of current employees are encouraged to apply for positions. We have one rule in our employee handbook: ensure resident safety, happiness, and prolongment of life. I take my job very seriously and take pride in it. I try to go above and beyond to make them all happy. Each resident during the daytime either listens to the radio, plays crossword puzzles, or most of the time watches their favorite TV shows. We don't provide television service. Each resident has to provide it themselves, if they choose. Over the last year, there has been a trend of televisions not working in countless units, and when this happens, they are very upset. When I get a work order for a TV, I go and check it out. Most of the time, there is nothing I can do. If the cable isn't cut, everything is plugged in, and there is no obstruction to the satellite signal, it's going to be a software issue. When this happens, I install an air antenna until the regular service is fixed. I call the company and a tech comes out, fixes it, and usually within a couple hours it stops working again. This is a never-ending cycle of upset residents. Over the course of an entire year, I spoke with several supervisors and tried to schedule for someone to come out and go through the entire property with me to address each issue. They weren't having that. They wanted me to go to each individual unit and have the particular resident call them. This is almost impossible. A lot of them have trouble hearing and discussing complex matters over the telephone, let alone know the 4-digit code and the answer to the screen question. One resident was out of service for over 60 days, and I demanded that they refund or discount this particular resident properly. They ended up only giving her $21 off, which isn't even half of a single month's payment. When I spoke with this particular representative, I told him that wasn't enough, and I will be throwing all other dishes in a dumpster. This is just the tip of the iceberg. These companies have caused significant property damage to the facility. They have ran the cokes in the gutters and down the downspouts, ran cables draped over the sidewalk, which is a tripping hazard, installed dishes in the center of courtyards or wherever is convenient for them. All over the property, cables are strung out on top of the grass for hundreds of feet, and they don't bother to bury any cables. I have discussed this numerous times with the owner of the facility last year. The last time I spoke with him about it, he gave me the okay to handle the situation and do whatever needed to be done to fix the issue. My options were limited, and the only feasible option I could concoct was using a landline company that didn't need a satellite dish. Well, I have officially finished running a new coax to every single unit, and the landline company has come in and installed boxes and services in each resident's apartment. Residents who had previously had to pay a monthly fee for their television service now get their service free of charge. Those that never had service now do. We have saved over 50 residents money every month, and all in total over 200 plus now have television service that is included, and the rent without any increase whatsoever. This was revenge for the representative talking to Miss T in such a negative and rude tone. I couldn't be happier for my residents. Our senior citizens are some of the most precious things in life. They hold all of our wisdom. Good day. This happened several years ago and is a multi-year long story. I'll keep it as succinct as possible. We installed cameras in front of our house that were looking at our vehicles. Part of the camera angles did overlook parts of two neighbors' properties, one backyard and one side yard. The cameras were battery operated and had a function where you could gray out areas that you didn't want to film. When motion occurred in the grayed out areas, the cameras would not be activated to film. The neighbors' entire properties and several bushes on our property were grayed out. We did this when installing them. One of the neighbors was a friend and had no issues with this whatsoever. We showed her the camera angle, and she said she didn't care whether or not we grayed out that area. We still left it grayed out over battery life concerns. The other neighbor's name was Karen, not really, but we all know why I chose that name. Karen was on the HOA board, and as you can imagine, we didn't get along with Karen or the HOA board. We told Karen about the camera and showed her the grayed out areas at the same time that we told our friendly neighbor about it. It was simply an FYI conversation. We are not on friendly terms. Not an asking permission conversation. He told us to take the cameras down immediately or we would regret it. About a week after we hung the camera up, we got a notice from our HOA that we were violating the bylaws. The bylaws in question? A nuisance to your neighbor's bylaw. There wasn't a specific bylaw preventing placement of cameras, so this is all they could find to try to punish us. We responded with a letter detailing how we were not violating any bylaws or laws in general, and asked them to cease and desist. We all know how these stories go though. They didn't cease, and they did not desist. Their first response? The HOA has a right to enforce these bylaws. Try to stop us if you think you can. These types of responses were unfortunately quite common from this board. We entered this battle with one goal in mind, to cost him as much money and time as possible. The HOA hired a lawyer specifically to fight us. To my knowledge, this has not happened to any other resident. In the following 4 months, we ended up costing the HOA over $4,000 in lawyers' fees fighting this battle. For reference, the entire HOA income was $25,000 a year. When it came time for our official HOA hearing over the matter, we had successfully postponed it, thanks to an attorney friend, 3 separate times. There were over 100 back-and-forth emails with the HOA attorney and ourselves. Each one of those emails was a 15-minute expense for the HOA, and I was happy to follow up a follow-up question was another follow-up question if it meant the HOA attorney was going to keep billing them. Did I say follow-up enough times? We didn't actually want to take this battle to court, so we ended up removing the cameras the day of the hearing to prevent being fined, even if the fine wouldn't hold up in court. The HOA decided in the hearing that we were guilty, surprise surprise, of violating the bylaw. They couldn't fine us, as the bylaws don't allow a fine until after a hearing has been held, and the cameras were already removed. In the end, the punishment was a sternly written piece of paper on the attorney's letterhead delivered via certified mail. It stated that we were not allowed to place a camera on our home that had the potential to invade a neighbor's privacy. Keep in mind the letter specifically stated the camera could not be placed on our home. We left the cameras off of the home for about 4 months, until the annual HOA meeting. You should have seen the look on the HOA board's faces when I asked them to explain the $4,000 line item for attorney fees that simply stated title searches, attorney fees. The board actually tried to hide the fact that they spent $4,000 trying to fight us over a couple of cameras by putting the fees in as title searches. Needless to say, that meeting did not go well for them. About half of them lost their positions on the board. The other half, including Karen, unfortunately remained on the board. About a week after the annual meeting, we installed new cameras facing the same direction as the prior cameras. Only this time we installed a post in the ground and mounted the cameras to that post. The admonishment we received after the hearing specifically stated that we were not allowed to install cameras on our home, and said nothing about putting them on a post. They did send a letter to try to tell us to remove the cameras, but a sternly worded response indicating that we were prepared to fight them actually worked this time around. I guess they didn't want to spend another $4,000 fighting us. We didn't receive any follow-up responses, and the cameras on the post are still installed to this day, over 2 years and running strong. I don't know if ages matter, but I, male 30, live with my wife and our 2 sons. We are homeowners and have had some trouble with our next-door neighbors. They are a young nuclear family, 2 parents in their 30s with a little baby. We aren't the type of neighbors to spy into yards or monitor what everyone is doing, so we hadn't really noticed that their backyard is a pigsty. At least not until our fence panels have been broken. These neighbors have been piling trash and leaning it up against our fence, and eventually, the sheer weight of it had just broken it, causing it all to spill into our yard. There were old pieces of wood, metal, garbage bags, pieces of furniture, and just general clutter and crap. I confronted the neighbors and informed them of what happened. I asked politely that they clear up the garbage and contribute some money towards a new fence. The husband said he'd sort it out, but after 2 weeks of no change, I knocked on their door again. The wife gave some excuses about how the baby has been crazy, but that they will get rid of the garbage as soon as possible. Another 3 weeks and nothing. I knocked on their door at 2 different times, left messages on their Ring doorbell, and messaged them both on Facebook, and it has been radio silence. They have also not given us any money for the fence, but to be honest, I don't even care. After no response for another week, I took matters into my own hands. I loaded up their garbage into my car and took it to the dump. They are now angry and said that we have no right to get rid of their stuff, and it's still their property. When the wife turned up at our door, we got into a small argument as she threatened me with small claims court, saying that we owe her and her husband money. I called her a Karen and told her if the stuff was so important, she shouldn't have left it littered around in my yard where my kids play for over a month. She says that they would have gotten rid of it if they were given a chance. The nearest dump is over an hour's drive away, and they don't have all the time in the world. Am I the jerk? And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, not the jerk. They damaged your property and then they abandoned their items on your side of the fence. That's property damage and littering that they are guilty of. And it's unlikely that any court will grant damages for property they abandoned on someone else's land. You should be taking them to small claims court about the damage to your fence. Another commenter adds, you gave them 5 weeks since you first talked to the husband, and they did nothing. They are fortunate you aren't charging them for the dump fee. My city charges to dump stuff at the city facility. You could have thrown it back to their home, and you didn't. What exactly would they take you to court over? Cleaning their garbage? Saving them time and money? Or are they saying their garbage wasn't garbage? The third commenter goes with, not the jerk, you should take them to small claims court. But before you do, reach out with a certified letter asking for them to either fix the fence or give you X amount of money by a set date. Usually you want to give a month at least. Also, you may want to ask them for money for having to remove the junk they dumped in your yard for weeks, and for any damage to the yard and costs to fix it. Keep notes in a journal about any other interactions with them, and if they don't respond by your date, take them to court. Judges look very favorably on plaintiffs who try to solve their own problems before filing a suit. Keep notes, be calm and polite. Don't argue or interpret if they start lying. Just wait your turn. Also, get an estimate from the most expensive contractor you can find. That's the amount you ask for in your letter. And bring that written estimate to court. You may also want to sue for missing work and hiring childcare to go to court. Not likely to get it, but if they are jerks to the judge, you may get lucky. Above all, don't threaten to sue them. Ever. Don't ever list consequences in your letter or conversations with them. Just ask for the money you're owed and give them a date you'd like it by. If they ask or else what, don't say you'll sue them. Just say nothing. No threats. Just get an estimate, send a certified letter with delivery receipt proof, then sue them if they don't pay. Don't have any conversation with them about this in person, only where you can have a record. A fourth commenter seals it with, not the jerk. Legally, I'm not sure how sound what you did is, with property laws and whatnot varying on location, but regardless of legality, they are definitely the jerks for breaking your fence and leaving their trash in your yard for a month. Before you moved their trash, I think it would have been better if you took them to small claims yourself or contacted the sanitation department. I think legally, that would help your case. But I also don't blame you for what you did there, and I don't think any court would fault you for tossing trash that was left on your property. And there you have it, folks. Another episode of K-Korner wraps up with stories that leave us laughing, pondering, and maybe a bit bewildered. It's a wild world out there, and these stories are just a glimpse into the everyday extraordinary. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed sharing these tales with you. If you have a story of your own or just want to share your thoughts, drop a comment below. We love hearing from you. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more K-Korner stories. Until next time, keep it carefree, easygoing, and always stay curious. This is Crown, signing off.